quick second here to make sure that all the relevant things are active. So we've got quality options. Looks like we're finally uploading to Twitch. And I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. We have a trailer for this patch. And actually what's funny for me is I have been really behind on stuff. I'll get the housekeeping and the personal stuff out of the way in a minute. But let's take a look at what we are about to enjoy today. This is the trailer for the new update, Update 13, Recipe for Ruin, which we're about to load into. So, as always, it's exciting stuff. I think the blueprints are probably going to be the most popular feature added in. But yeah, I didn't know what was in this. I did not know what was in this patch until I saw that trailer, so I thought I would share it. We will read the patch notes as well. That's sort of a traditional thing. But let me at least load up the game for starters, and we can handle the rest. After. I suspect I won't be able to see the patch notes within the game, but we'll take a minute and try nonetheless.
Titan. Everyone comes to Titan with a dream. Our moon is one of limitless wealth. There are ancient riches here for those with the strength to claim them. But some dreams start smaller. A better life, more dignity, more comfort. Today, Titan is a place where you can buy those dreams, where anyone can profit. But it isn't easy. You have to prove yourself here. Those who settle here take that risk. And without their diligent labor, our power grid would fail. Pollution would overwhelm us. And our trade would collapse. It's hard work, but on Titan, hard work isn't enough. The bold, the strong, those are the people Titan rewards. Those are the ones who see their dreams through. Exceptional people. Friends to the Council. That is why we're giving you this opportunity, Founder. We expect great things from you. Make sure you live up to our expectations.
I believe this is the updated logo for the Unreal Engine, which shows you just the level of dedication that... Actually, that might be automatic inside of the Anyways, so I did. I was trying to fix a couple of things for myself. Normally there is roadmap notifications. Let's take a quick second here and bring it up. So July, bug fixing, quality of life, and performance optimization. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense because I guess this is the. I guess I'm having a little difficulty parsing this out. In any case, I believe we're in the August patch, so new discovery, inert ruins, new map locations, new presets, custom color tones, weather settings, and more. Next month, we'll get to look forward to anomalous sources, so artifact patches, a monument research center, so new building, obsidian ruins, large ruins, and more. And all of this seems to be building towards what I'm assuming is sort of a big... kind of the big reveal of the science lab. It definitely, the next few months, as we've sort of talked about, seem to be very much focused on artifacts and what they do. Now, the patch notes, I believe, are going to open in another browser now. Yes, so unfortunately, you do not get to listen to the nice soundtrack, but really, all that means is you should buy the soundtrack. You can enjoy it yourself. Sorry, I just got a reply to a question that I asked. Sorry, I know it's not fun to hear me typing in silence, but this is actually related to getting something working inside the game. So I wanted to take a second to address this. Actually, there's one other thing Okay. Sorry, I just need a... Sorry about that. So maybe actually I'll what I could have done, I could have taken a minute to just explain what's going on. So some of you may recall that when I load up the game in timed contract mode, I've had some difficulty getting the leaderboards up. Right now I'm getting a not logged in and then connect to server. Now, it's possible there's something going wrong with my Epic launcher in the sense that I have not had an overlay in a very long time. Now, one of the things I was trying to do to correct this one thing that I did was I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I just need to reset my login. So I actually disconnected. I just did this afternoon. I actually disconnected Industries of Titan from my Epic account. And the drawback is that I don't seem to have any way of reconnecting it. So it's a shame because I think time contract mode is really interesting. But I think for myself, I've actually inadvertently locked myself out of time contract mode. It's something I'll fix. And then I do have a Steam version of the game now. So, I might give that a shot just to see how it goes. I'll also get my playtime up in Steam. So I suppose if nothing else, people can stop, yelling at me on my review for saying that, I obviously haven't played the game, right? But anyways, that's just, I got a reply in the Brace Yourself Discord, which for those of you who are not a member of it yet, there is a link inside the chat. And they are wonderful people there. So I wanted to take a second to give the reply. But yeah, so I don't want to spend too much time on the housekeeping stuff. But I figure while I'm taking a second to find the patch notes, which is what I was originally going to the site for, and then I saw the nice reply. I got my second COVID shot on Monday, so I took the day off because it's a Canadian holiday, and actually it was really worth it. But I feel terrible after getting that shot. Sorry, I got a follow-up question. Okay. Sorry, that was just a follow-up question to what I was dealing with. I won't make this a full tech support stream. But yeah, so I'm actually still feeling not 100%. I feel better than I did yesterday, but I'm still not feeling 100% after the vaccine. I just generally feel very cloudy, and then I'm actually also very sore. But I'll deal with that as best as I can. I did, however, get a major milestone on a big data project. There was an opportunity for a data analyst at a company that I really wanted to follow up on. And I think it was posted for 3 or 4 days. And because I was feeling really bad from the COVID vaccine, I said, okay, well, I'll get it all together tomorrow because it's good to proofread your resume and stuff like that. And they took the listing down. So that's, to myself, that is the last time I'm not doing an application the same day. And I just need to make sure that I update my resume on time. Anyways, the reason why we're here is to take a look at the updates. So update 13, Recipe for Ruin. Patch highlights, inert ruins. Some ruins can now be activated for various functions. Ship blueprints, save and load layouts for your ships. New locations, 2 new map locations are available to play. Piece of advice, move the advisors panel to the top left for easier access and more. Industries of Titan is in early access, which means that we are actively updating and adding new content based on our roadmap and your wonderful feedback. You can expect the next Titan Tuesday updates on September 7th, 2021. See the full patch notes below. changes as of 0.16.0, and as always, the little Saturn icon indicates a change due to community feedback. I'm actually going to make one small adjustment here, just so I can monitor the Discord. Okay. Insert inert ruins. Some ruins, when surveyed, will now reveal functions apart from just containing resources and artifacts. For now, you can discover ruins that store energy or fuel, or act as an air filter to remove pollution and zethane, and sometimes a mix of the two if you're lucky, and if you're lucky, maybe even all three for your city. Once activated by spending artifacts to research them, they will act like other buildings in the city. However, they cannot burrow. Even once activated, you can still salvage them for their original resource contents, but any artifacts they once contained are used up on activation. Inert ruins will also do far more damage when destroyed by rebels, so it's wise to plan your city carefully around these useful but volatile structures. Ship blueprints. Ship blueprints. UI is in the bottom left of the shipyard view. From here, you can save, apply, and overwrite blueprints. Blueprints are saved on a per-user basis, so no matter how many cities you start, you'll be able to use the same blueprint every single time. And up to 5 blueprints per ship hull can be saved. Explorers of Titan. 2 new map locations are now available to play. Tranquil Trailblazing, more lakes, less rebel camps, low zethane, and lots of rain. And Chemical Enterprise. No lakes, lots of zethane and rebel camps, and no weather conditions. We have also added some color overlays to all locations to give them some more distinct identities and added specific weather conditions to some existing maps. Piece of advice. We've moved the advisors panel to the top left to all the other management panels so that it's easier to find and more accessible. Remember, you can access all kinds of extra gameplay tips and tricks by calling your advisors, so give it a try. Move the gameplay tip from the advisor system to the linear tutorial to better explain job priorities. Working hard or hardly working. Added a new flag to indicate that all your employees are assigned to full-time jobs or dedicated to a job category to better communicate why no employees are available to do other work. Unfortunately, we will have to wait to localize the contents of this tooltip. Filters and friends. This is community feedback. Change the UI panel of storage facilities and containers. The filter settings are no longer hidden behind a button and are now instead listed on the UI panel, which I'm not 100% sure in text. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but we'll probably see it the second that it comes up. Fuel Up refactored some fuel storage code. Fuel stored in the transport hub can now be used to power your energy plants if need be. Fuel from your silos will also be used to fill your transport hub if need be. Red versus Blue polished up our combat VFX. Player ships fire blue lasers instead of red lasers to help differentiate between shots. Combat view targeting reticles now got a makeover and now display different colors depending on if they are being placed, charging, or firing. Oh, that's actually pretty good. Dismantle it all. Move the dismantle all and dismantle mode UI to the bottom of the device list in the buildings and shipyard. Miscellaneous. Frame rate now defaults to 60 FPS instead of unlimited for new players to improve performance. If you are having trouble maintaining a steady frame rate, consider changing your frame limit setting in options. And updated the codecs. Oh, well, it has been a while since we've checked out the codec, so I know I'm taking a while to get started, but I think this would actually be I think this might be a decent time for us to take a quick peek. Fixes of 16.0. This is a chance for QA to take a big bow. Fix the device dismantle tooltip displaying the returned resources in Tier 1 regardless of which tier was used to build the device. Fixed being unable to dock in a shipyard if there was more than 2 shipyards present and the player had a maximum number of ships allowed. Fixed destroying a rock bigger than 1 by 1 after a save and load causing a hole in the map. Fixed an exploit allowing ships to target buildings from across the map. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know about that one. Fixed launch button not updating its visual state when selecting the shipyard after exiting. Fixed device UI changing to dismantling if a dismantle was selected before selecting a construction. Fixed a crash occurring when a dismantle was ongoing in one shipyard and a construction was queued in a second shipyard. Fixed being allowed to build more than the max amount of ships. Cool. I got, again, just a reminder here in terms of the Discord and all of that. So I asked a question, I think about 6 o'clock. And by 7:25, I have a fairly clear idea about what my next step is going to be. I definitely did not ask that question with an expectation that I would be that I would have it by then. So that's one of the reasons why I was a little eager to respond, just because I was, I was delighted at how quickly it was handled. So this might be a thing on the epic end, though. Okay. Where were we? Fixed rebel claims, and surveys leaving icons behind. Fixed ultra-wide monitors not showing their correct native resolutions in full screen mode. Fixed ship employee management panel not being closed when right-clicking to dismiss. Fixed some more achievements triggering incorrectly. Fixed rebel turrets being allowed to attack player ships that were inside shipyards if they were within range. Fixed devices never being repaired if a crew member died while assigned to repair that device. Fixed relay arcs being displayed on the enemy ship and never being dismissed if the energy overlay was viewed in the combat view. Fixed life support UI flickering on and off in some circumstances, and made a low-risk fix to the freeze when placing command centers in truck-accessible tiles in very big cities with huge transportation networks. While this doesn't resolve the issue completely, it should significantly decrease the length of the freeze. So, we are now ready to properly... actually, sorry. There is one other thing I want to do, which is to close my... Chrome. So, try one more time to go in. One other thing that I think might be affecting things for me is that I've noticed that I haven't had my Epic Games overlay for a while, and I don't seem to have any options to enable that. So, anyways, we're ready to start a new game of Industries of Titan. I was originally going to try a timed contract, but as you can see, that's sort of off limits to us for now. So let's... Oh, sorry. I said I was going to check out the codex. Yeah, so we've got these inerts. And I don't remember if there were some rebel names. So let's at least do some of these. So let's do at least do the ruins. So start with large ruins. Like the many ruins one finds littering the landscape of Titan, these dilapidated structures are the remnants of a time before the Council. These ruins are larger than usual and sometimes contain more I think it's supposed to be more resources, but they are no less mysterious. The history of those who came before may be lost, but the stories of treasure buried within these ruins beckon to the most enterprising of Titanians. Ruin monuments. These peculiar monuments are said to have some value unknown to anyone but the Council, whose directives state that they should not be destroyed. This is interesting, by the way. So I was under the impression you could not mine large ruins for the resources. So either I was mistaken on that, or there was something that was stopping me from doing that the last time I tried. But we'll take a look, because definitely that write-up seems to indicate that we should be able to convert them into resources. Inert tank. When properly harnessed, these ruins provide fuel to enterprising founders. Your research scientist was impressed that the fuel is even usable in our system, since presumably the last civilization wasn't as technologically advanced as modern-day corporations. Clearly, more research is needed to find definitive answers. Inert battery. Not only did the ancient civilization clearly have some way to generate energy, they found a storage solution that led to almost no degradation, so this ruin still functions perfectly as a working battery. Hey, Neutrino V, I thought you'd started your own Discord for a minute. No. Well, I do have a Discord, it's almost never used. No, I wanted to take a second to check out the Brace Yourself Discord, because I basically had a question. It was kind of a minor one and largely my own fault. I kind of had an answer and like a plan of action within 90 minutes of asking the question originally. So I was a little eager to just keep on top of that. Good to see you. Inert filter. Researchers have many guesses about how ancient Titanites. Interesting. So there's Titanites and Titanians. I guess Titanians might be the modern name. we're able to breathe Titan airs. This ruin, which contains a strange purifying tech, may be a major clue to that puzzle. And inert ruin. These strange ruins are unlike any others in that they contain ancient technology that an enterprising founder might be able to harness. Scientists are still studying the civilization that made its home in the stars, but perhaps these ruins will be able to tell us something if we know where to look. And then, I don't know if I'll do all of it, but it is neat to have some details about the Rebel ships now. So there's the Freedom K1, previously a passenger ship due to its surprisingly roomy interior. It's often used to host Rebel parleys. The Light of Rhea. If the Rebels took prisoners, which they insist they do not, this ship might be where they would hold them. The Hammer. The Hammer was the starship of the Arquebus Manufacturing Corp until a Rebel faction destroyed them and stole their tech. Common Salvation. Small but mighty, Common Salvation was the first ship ever used by Rebel forces. You know, we could probably go through all of these. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm always really impressed at how much gets added in on each monthly update. You know, I'm lucky enough now that I've sort of been sitting with it for about 13 updates. So, you know, the surprises may be a little bit more muted just because I have such high expectations. But I never, you know, every update usually brings, like, I guess one thing that impresses me is that I look at the feature list and then I play it, and I'm always surprised by the feature that gets my attention when I actually play the game relative to when I read it. And then, of course, second of all, is just the sheer amount of stuff that gets added to the game over time. And I think this particular batch of updates is really clear the path that they're going down as far as ruins and artifacts are concerned. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where it goes. And it's also really clear, like, I haven't been checking in on the Twitch channel as often as I would like, just because, again, busy and sick and whatnot. But I do think the enthusiasm is really clear on the team members. So, like, Andy, when was talking, even during the Steam release broadcast, it was really clear, you know, that there's some stuff coming up which the team is clearly very excited about. So I'm looking forward to it. All right. The CS Unity, a fearsome artillery unit that has such specialized weaponry that repairs often cost the same as manufacturing a whole new hull. The Rainbreaker. The Rainbreaker model is based off of an older Martian ship model that fell out of favor over a decade ago. The Dog of Hope, a rebel's best friend, this ship deals a healthy amount of carnage with every outing. The Penance. The Pulma rebel faction used this ship to take down Confluenza Incorporated, the very corporation who designed it. The Nomad Alliance. Rumor has it that the rebels don't just use the Nomad for fighting, but as the living quarters for their new recruits too. The Escape. Don't be fooled by the exterior. This ship has a surprisingly luxe interior that is that's often used as a headquarters when it isn't laying waste to council-backed cities. The Solar Clipper. So large it can blot out the microsun. The Clipper has most corporations racing for cover. And the Wisdom of Elpis, one of the few ships designed by and for the rebels. The Wisdom is a shining example of the kind of innovation that can take place even without council influence. All right, so we'll do a new game. So as always, we're going to play the Landfallers. It's currently the only faction, although I did So I didn't know that this was announced before, but apparently the creepy vampires on the other side of Titan are another faction who's going to be coming up. I call them the creepy vampires, by the way. That is not actually the name of the corporation or the other faction. But we've got standard investments, so this is the kind of the vanilla start. We've got Ruthless Opportunity. So this is the one that we played previously. Very high resources, very low rocks, very low lakes, very high crevices, very high rebel camps, and occasional heavy rain and snow. There's the Rugged Venture, low resources, very high rocks, normal lakes, very low crevices, low rebel camps, frequent snow, no rain. Tranquil Trailblazing, normal resources, very low rocks, very high lakes, low crevices, low rebel camps, frequent rain, no snow. And Chemical Enterprise, normal resources, very low rocks, no lakes, very high crevices, high rebel camps, no rain or snow. So I'm probably not going to try Ruthless Opportunity again. Chemical Enterprise is kind of interesting, definitely because of the crevices. I'm tempted to try... always fun to have your... yeah. So I was thinking Rugged Venture again, because it's been a while since I've done that. I actually learned quite a bit playing it. I know there's the low rebel camps. I was also thinking Chemical Enterprise might be interesting, but I actually think that having too many crevices on the board is gonna teach me my bad habits again. So I'm thinking probably Rugged Venture or Tranquil Trailblazing again. So this lake-rich area has resulted in few places for rebel camps to spring up, excellent for companies who aren't cut out for cutthroat combat, and a Zethane-rich land could prove a boon to an enterprising founder, especially for corporations with high energy requirements. And then an uninhabited, inhospitable area of Titan, calm due to its abundance of rocky mountains and beautiful yet exotic waters, perfect for companies looking to trailblaze. You know what, let's do Rugged Venture. Zala and Company it is. We will go for the X. I won't do hardcore mode. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, there's difficulty options. I am going to try hard again. But I'm going to do Rugged Venture. Vessels are staffed by employees only. That's because ships are often destroyed in firefights, and so the crew needs to be highly expendable. Believe it or not, cool facts, I actually think... Sorry, I don't know why it's so stuttery all of a sudden. That's a pity. Let me just take a second here. I'm tabbed out of the game now. Huh. But yeah, so cool facts. I actually find a large number of rebel camps to be much more difficult to handle than low resources. And if this is their idea of a hard start, so we've got a mineral node and an isotope node straight off the bat, and then we've got sort of 3 crevices in access, so this seems like a pretty easy start. I was curious about the... Sorry, let me... Oh, damn it! I didn't mean to do that. Okay, well... And I'm going to slightly adjust my worker jobs here. I'm actually going to make salvage and extract higher than survey. But yeah, so one of the things that I want to be focusing on here is just trying to make the most of what I have available. And I was originally going to try and find a strategy that didn't involve me building a fuel turbine right away, except that there's a crevice right here. Of course I'm going to take advantage of that. So in fact, let's get some priorities right out of the way. So we'll go for a fuel turbine for sure, then an energy plant. I've got 2K left, so we will do a... I need to do at least one defensive measure. Let's do the shipyard for now. And then I actually think a mine would not be a bad idea. Okay, so we'll definitely turn this into resources. This is already an inert ruin, so it absorbs pollution. That's a surprisingly good one. So it means that I'm actually probably going to be able to keep my original worker factory. Okay, so there's one artifact waiting for me here. So the only real complaint I have about this is that the ruins really aren't sparking joy. Overall, though, I think this is actually a very forgiving start. Okay, so I got to think a little bit about what I'm going to try and do. So one of the things that I've noticed over time is that it's become a little less viable to, like, so normally I start with like the largest version of everything to begin with, and I'm thinking that that's a less and less justifiable approach to the game. The more I think about it and the more I play, particularly on like a level like this. So let me start by getting some more raw resources. So there's 10 minerals there. That's really the last one where I wouldn't be giving up artifacts. So I'll grab one of these. I am ultimately looking for 2 level 1 isotopes. Okay, so I'll be fine there. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by building a... So build a medium storage container just so that we can... like we can store more in general. When I can, I'll dismantle this thing. And then I'll build whatever generators and fuel fabricators and such over time. I'm going to feel a little bit like I'm going to be less worried about getting... I'm going to be a little bit less worried about like building the final layout at the start. And this is just going to be because I can convert all of the resources from tier 1 items into tier 2, which to me is a fairly big advantage, and something that's really important given the fact that we allegedly have limited access to resources. So what I'll probably wind up doing here is I'll save up the 20 to be able to take this thing down, and I'll probably take out one of these rocks as well. The only real consideration I have here is that I don't exactly... So one, I don't need the fuel turbine right now, and number 2, I can't afford the fuel turbine right now. So one of the things I want to try and do is get everything up and running as quickly as I can. In particular, that's going to mean getting these isotopes, which currently my workers are not picking up. So, in the meantime, let's get some more preliminaries down. I can afford a small generator, but I'm only 1 away from a medium generator. So let's save up for that. Medium generator needs 2 fuel, so we can probably get by with a small fuel fabricator for the start. Okay, next thing I need to think about is my future factories and such. So I'm not going to touch this ruins simply because I'd like to activate it for the pollution. That does mean that I need to think a little bit about where I'm going to put my power buildings. So this should be fine. I'm just trying to think if there's an advantage placing it here versus here. This might work slightly better for me. And then the next thing is going to be the factory. I have a total of 6 isotopes, so we should be fine to build and connect. And I think I would like to try and get at least one employee working on a minerals patch. So it's 38, 52, 60. Okay, so looks like 60 is my best one. There's a small argument for actually setting up a mine just to get these things, like just to drill these down a little bit faster. I don't think I'm quite at the point where I can afford that yet, but it's something to keep in mind. I'm trying to remember how this normally works. I'm pretty sure this'll turn out. I guess I could build a battery as well. So one of the problems I have right now is that I've got this kind of vast untapped resource in the form of my workers. So being able to get them working on stuff like mineral patches or, you know, going into factories, just generally getting them to do stuff is pretty important. Of course, I'm also restricted in terms of how much I can actually do because I'm only going to have so much Zethane, I'm only going to have so much power. And I'm in a little bit better spot than I normally am on this kind of a start because there is a crevice nearby. But still, like, there's not unlimited power. And one of the things I really noticed on this start is how difficult it was to actually get myself up and running in terms of certain tech. So I think I'm actually going to build another set of factories here. And it's just because I'm doing okay in terms of overall isotopes. So I've got the space for it. I pretty much have everything else that I need. I suppose it gives me something to do in the meantime. So one of these is going to be dedicated towards bringing in employees. I want to bring in the employees pretty early, just because I'm losing credits right now, and I am eventually going to want to build some more. I am going to want to build some more workers. And of course, the other thing that I want to do is generate a little bit more. I want to be able to convert my minerals into tier 2. Actually, I think I'm going to do the mineral conversion first, just so it's a little cheaper for me to build some of the upgrades that I want. And I think I did this during the timed contract mode last time, but I am quite partial to this new factory layout that I've got. In fact, arguably, I don't need the super factory for it, but I'll have the extra space to, you know, cram in another I don't know, like I guess a generator or fuel fabricator or something. My real problem here is going to be artifacts. So if I want to activate this thing, that's going to be 5 artifacts. Got 2, 6, 9. Okay, it's a little bit better than I thought, actually. Okay, now I've got enough to be able to see myself through. Yeah, this is a surprisingly generous start. Okay, let's start with. So first of all, I'm actually quite alarmed at the rate at which the rebel threat is growing, because I just built a shipyard. I didn't actually build a defensive tower. So I'd better get that shipyard up and running, or this is going to be a really short playthrough. Actually, I think I did something wrong on this setup, but... Okay, so something... Yeah, we're just out of resources. So this is a great example of some of the trade-offs that we're talking about a little bit earlier. So I really want red artifacts, but right now I'm constrained by the amount of minerals that I have or don't have. So, I can try and go for this temporary boost. The ability to upgrade or to refine minerals into more valuable resources is a really important one for me, and particularly as it will relate to the threat meter. But the question is, do I want that temporary gain? Like, how much am I willing to spend to get that temporary gain? Am I willing to give up 3 artifacts for the 32 minerals? What about 2 artifacts for 14? 4 for 21, presumably I'd be willing to take this trade first. This one is a little bit easier, right? This one I definitely want to lock in the artifacts for. But, again, if I make that decision one or two times, and all of a sudden I find I'm in a situation where I'm not able to do something like, say, bring in my, the new colonists. I'm going to lock in these 3, so that's kind of taken away the most appealing of the mineral options. But I think I'm reasonably confident I'm going to be able to work around it. This is not where I want to be. So I'm waiting on 4 more minerals for the processor. I guess I can build the waste module now. Eventually I'll be attaching an isotope module as well, but I'm not gonna get ahead of myself on that. We're sitting on 5 artifacts now, so we're not going to activate the ruins just because I don't really have any need for it, but I am going to unlock the spaceport because pretty soon we're gonna start having some people come in. Maybe that waste module wasn't a good idea. Sorry, if you can just bear with me a quick second. Sorry about that. I'm actually in quite a bit of pain right now. So I just really needed to try and stretch, and I'm also just wrapping myself up in a blanket. I don't want to sound too, sorry for myself, but it's a struggle right now. Okay, so I'm debating about saving up for another mineral patch. Because in this case, it's not really the, like, I'd argue that this is very much, like, the rate at which we're acquiring minerals matters about as much as the overall quantity that we can expect. So, like, one of the reasons why I'm not too worried about exploiting these for artifacts is that I know I have isotopes and mineral patches. So over the long haul, I'm going to be okay. But I may not get to the long haul in the current state of things, particularly with my shipyard. You know, the shipyard's going to require me to have a fairly robust economy in terms of just being able to, like, get the ships built and up in the air. Now, one of the things is that I learned that it's possible that a level 1 ship will actually take me out. At least that's what happened in the last time contract mode, so that's one of the reasons why I want to try building an early shipyard. But again, my tendency to be very passive in terms of playing the game is potentially going to come back to bite me in terms of the rebel threat level. So with that in mind, it's one of the reasons why I'm trying to build up the processing hut early. And I'm actually not going to be building sort of my magnum opus building. What I'm going to do instead is just kind of cram everything into one slot here. So this is one of the most important steps that I can do, which is to get this mineral processor up and running. This is so that I can get myself up to tier 2 minerals, and that's going to give me access to quite a few more buildings. And more importantly, that's going to give me access to the the tier 2 to tier 3. I'm definitely going to be very willing to dismantle and rebuild everything in the colony is fair game as far as dismantling and rebuilding, because we are going to need all the minerals that we can get our hands on. But for the time being, I will content myself with just making sure that I've got the infrastructure in place. I'm not going to be touching my isotopes at all because I just don't think I'm going to be needing these kinds of upgrades at the moment. But oh, wonderful. That's fantastic. Okay. I was talking about a job that I wanted to apply to, and the thing shut down. It's not the same as a job, but somebody just gave me somebody from the place that works there. I had a few questions for them, and they offered to do a Zoom call in favor of an email reply, which I think is wonderful. So that's a bit of good news for me. Night Valian, what's up, SC? How's the new patch? So I'm just getting started with it. I have been recovering from my second vaccine and just generally being very tired and stressed. But it looks like there's a few bits of good news lately. So it's very hard to complain about that. I'm actually going to cancel this and start building with tier 2 right away. I do need to make sure that I get a waste receptacle down fairly soon as well. But yeah, no, the new patch is looking interesting just because of some of the extra stuff that they added. And you know what? I think I'm actually going to leave aside grabbing another minerals patch. I think I am going to grab one of these isotope patches, just because I'm only 10 influence away from it. But yeah, the plan for this really is just a chance to grab the just grab the tier 1 minerals, knowing that I'm going to be able to convert them into something a little more useful. In fact, I've got So tier 1's going to cost me 2 of those. So this is a chance for me to actually rebuild the whole... Again, I want to be a little bit careful about how I do this. So I've only got 5 right now, so I want to make sure that I'm replacing the output module before anything else. And eventually this will be a tier 2 only receptacle. And again, this is a little bit of wasted time, but in the end, the number of individual tier 1 minerals that are going to be converted into tier 2 as a result of this decision is 100% worth the time. The only way it wouldn't be worth it is if the rebels reached us. Well, you know, basically because I was too busy sitting on my hands waiting for all this to get done. But this is going to bring me closer to getting my shipyard, so it'll be worth it in the long run. Okay, so we're going to be waiting a little while for the rest of this to get built. One of my first priorities is actually going to be to get a waste receptacle built. I might do it somewhere on this side, which is where I normally put them anyway. The only problem is that I know it's also gonna, like, they're gonna pick up the waste that's here, which I don't necessarily want them to do. We are ready to grab our next isotope, or our first isotope patch. So this is the 23. This will be the one that I want. And again, I would have preferred to grab another minerals patch, but just because we were so close to getting to being able to afford the isotopes patch, I think this is the right call. I am, however, going to wait for the 20 to grab another minerals patch because I'm going to learn just how quickly I'm going to run out of those tier 1 minerals. Okay, so we'll speed things up just to wait for somebody to feed the processor. It's not the most efficient way to wait for everything, but okay, now I think the waste receptacle goes, well, you know what, I'll game it out properly, so one here, one here. So employee module would be... So I think the waste... not module, waste receptacle goes... I think it goes here. It's not the end of the world if I have to move it, but I just need something to catch the waste that gets generated here. This is going to run out sooner rather than later. So we've got 2 energy. You know what? I think the time has come for me to try and build a couple of employee modules. So the reason why I wanted to get that infrastructure up was just so that I can make the most out of my habitat pods and monetization stations. Now, right now, I'm only generating 2 energy, and I don't have that much as far as you know, as far as ethane and energy reserves are concerned. So I'm definitely short on I'm sort of short on everything, but I should be able to manage. We'll of course be able to upgrade to the higher level generator and such in a little bit, but I'm basically just trying to make the most of what I have access to now. Okay. So at some point I'm going to need to consider upgrading isotopes. Again, the thing that's worth remembering is that even if I want to build the shipyard, like 4 isotopes is not the end of the world to give up. If I do get the infrastructure in place in order to handle the upgraded isotopes, that's fine. You know, I'll be a very happy camper. but I know I'm going to have those 4 isotopes no matter what. In fact, I can probably even get them by dismantling certain buildings. But okay, so I apparently misjudged. Oh, right, because I'm already working on my next tier of... Nope, that's not the reason. We are out of waste, though. So maybe one here? I think I'm messing up the layout here. Okay, so I got to think about how I'm going to be improving my... overall infrastructure. I think the way I'm going to handle this is I'm going to start with a large generator. It would be kind of nice if I could have built this with tier 3s, but I just don't see myself with the... Actually, you know what? Maybe I can. So let's just turn off the work shed. I'll grab that extra energy. We can actually start ourselves on some tier 3 minerals. Obviously, it's like this, the energy's not going to last me forever, but I bet you I can get at least one tier 3 out before sort of the bank comes to claim the energy interest. So we'll shut that thing off just to conserve energy. And at this point, we're just going to wait for the 50 to get us to a level 2 processor. Now, if we see a good opportunity as far as something for the population to arrive, I'll obviously turn the work shed back on. But what I'm really trying to do right now is make sure that I'm in a spot where I'm sort of generating enough to keep me going, even to keep a bit of a surplus if I can. But essentially, like, I guess the other thing I could try and do would put down more batteries, but that's just going to cost me minerals, and I want to save those minerals up. So at the moment here, I really just need to get myself to that next level of infrastructure. Ugh, I'm going to need more waste receptacles. Look, this isn't great. I think I just need to accept that I'm going to need a lot more waste storage than I currently have access to. So that was probably overkill, but at least I don't need to think about it for a while. I think it should be this size. So again, just turn that off to preserve power. The big reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be replacing the medium generator with a large. So there's going to be a period of time where I'm not only running a deficit energy-wise, but I'm actually going to be removing my generator. And so if I go in with a full generator at the start, or sorry, full power reserves at the start, that's generally better than sort of draining it down for no real reason and then hoping that I have enough to carry me through. So, and again, the real key here is that the tier 3 minerals are going to be the thing that allow me to build the shipyard, allow me to build the ships, and just generally will be a way that I try and pull myself out of my my slump here. So just one more in the storage container, and we should be able to get the processor. Okay, so I need to build at least one waste module to handle the processing. Obviously, we'll wait. Well, actually, we're ready to go. Oh, I messed up. Or no, I didn't. Nope, I think this is the right way. Okay, so now I'm willing to turn this all on. So yes, we're going to be drawing down power, but we're going to be drawing down power towards something that's going to get us our next level of upgrade. Of course, it'd be nice to have a tier 2 to sort of run with. This is probably there's going to be a little bit of a jam in terms of where. So like right now, it's not counting me as having any tier 2 resources. I think that's because there's already something on the way to the mineral pile. That is going to be a bit of a challenge for me to deal with. But I do have the more important upgrade, which is I can now dismantle my medium generator, and I can replace it with a large. More importantly, I can make sure that, yes, I did get the spacing down correctly. Okay, so I'm going to be running out really quick. Actually, we are already out of power, so... I don't really want to do this, but I kind of have to. Oh, actually, you know what? I might be able to get away with some nonsense here. So I cancel that. Nope. I think I just made a problem for... Wait, I don't... So where did the T3 that was going into building that go, I wonder? Okay, I'll be honest, I'm actually not 100% sure where certain minerals went after that rather questionable set of decisions. However, I do know I want a storage container for tier 3 stuff. Okay, and apparently my tier 2 is gone? That's inconvenient. Now, I'm also particularly interested in the fact that... Okay, no. It's because the fuel fabricator hasn't been built yet. And I am sitting on a huge stack of influence that I haven't touched yet. So I think 46 was my next highest. Nope, 52. So grab one of those, and it's actually very tempting to go for another isotope patch just because I currently have the wherewithal. Ah, there's the tier 3. Yeah, so everything's ground to a halt because I can't put the... Yep, shame on me. Okay. So as a stopgap, let's go back to headquarters. And even as a tier 1, at this point I really just need to build a storage container. So let's get that down. Let's actually turn that into a priority. So this is essentially so that I can get the ball rolling again in terms of my production. So basically, if I don't have anything to store the 19 minerals and 7 isotopes, I'm not going to be able to build a fuel fabricator, which of course is not going to allow me to upgrade any of my buildings. So this thing I'm going to dismantle as soon as I can. It doesn't block my large storage container, which is the main thing I'm worried about. But at least now I can sort of let my people scurry around. Okay, so here's what I actually wanted to build. Okay, so now I can afford to dismantle that. And I think against my better judgment, I'm going to build some batteries. I messed up on the placement here. Oh, you know what? I might have messed up on the placement, but there's an easy way that I can fix that. I can turn him into tier... In fact, I could turn all this stuff into higher tier. So again, not normally a concern except for the fact that I'm trying to stretch my resources as far as I can. It might be interesting if there was like an upgrade button, so you don't have to manually dismantle and rebuild. On the other hand, I guess there is some value in like actually having to take the time to get the adjustment done. Like sometimes, this is definitely something that I learned in Cultist Simulator, like sometimes you don't necessarily want everything to be done easy for you. You know, like, I kind of feel like there should be a cost for upgrading. So even if that cost is just like my time or my attention. But, okay. What am I trying to do now? I guess my next goal really is to get that... Well, there's a couple of things. So one, I want to get the fuel turbine up and running. And then... So the fuel turbine will enable the... energy. Yeah, see, that means that I really need to get the... I really do need to get the isotope refining down. So I have a way that I'm going to handle that. And it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to work. I can't believe I'm already short on... But I'm already short on... waste. Okay, trying to think of the best way to handle the Zethane. So if I want to build a fuel turbine, I'm going to need 200 in terms of tier 3, so we're still short by quite a bit. Now, for some reason, the tier 1, the conversion from tier 1 to tier 2 isn't really happening. So here's what I'm going to do to try and save a little bit on energy. We're going to turn off the tier 3 pipeline for now. What I'm hoping this is going to do is enable a little bit more as far as the... I'm hoping this will enable a little bit more as far as the sort of the mineral development's concerned, and more importantly, I'm going to be able to build a few more buildings here. So Habitat Pod is sort of the first priority, given the fact that it'll give me access to more workers. Even if I don't build work slots for them, there's still something I can get done. I suppose I can also build waste receptacles here. It's not exactly the ideal place for it, but it's better than nothing. So this will have to do. Actually, if I say I'm going to build a waste receptacle, I should commit to it, so... And I can afford to grab another ruins, so... So yeah, we're sitting on 73 minerals. Like, it is definitely possible for me to grab some more mineral patches, but I think it's very fair to say that it's not access to minerals that's keeping us behind. I think in this case it's really our refining capacity that's fallen behind. Given my quality of gameplay, I think you will have an object lesson in the worst that can happen. There's going to be a very specific set of things that I do here, so I'm not necessarily going to... So I'm definitely not enabling the Tier 2 to Tier 3 isotope module. I might consider Tier 2 isotopes because those are going to be worth 3 isotopes, and as a result, some of my upgrades will be relatively cheap. Wait, did I just pay Tier 1 minerals out of that? I bet you I did. Yeah, I paid Tier 1s. I can't really afford to make those kinds of mistakes on this one. So I'll just refactor that into Tier 2. Oh. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not using Tier 3 minerals to do that. So originally I thought it was overkill to produce this many waste receptacles, but it's really clear that our waste storage is not keeping up with our waste production. Which again is a problem because the rebel threat is slowly creeping up, and we actually don't have a game plan for dealing with it yet. Okay, so I'm running out of power. Well, here's the easy thing I can do, because there's no consequence for not letting my workers get a good night's sleep. I can just turn off the work shed. They will have literally nothing to do, but it does mean that I get to turn on all my other industry. Okay, not quite. Crap. What can I turn off? Problem solved. So yeah, this is horrible, but it's gonna work. So basically, and I'll get another waste receptacle down, because that one we're gonna fill up pretty quick. But yeah, so like basically, this is the way that I'm gonna get to my higher tier materials. In fact, at this point I should be considering that fuel turbine. So what are we looking at here? Fuel turbine 202. So what I should be doing now, I actually don't need to worry so much about the tier 3 stuff, but what I do want to be working on is getting at least one tier 2 isotope. So we're gonna turn off the mineral input for now. So we'll still let them convert some of those tier 2s into tier 3s, but right now I want at least one tier 2 isotope so that I can turn that into something useful. we'll let them build up a little bit of a stock. Okay, so the more important mission right now is to finally get myself in a spot where I can generate a respectable amount of power. So we'll start with that. Again, it's not going to be perfect, right? We have some other considerations in terms of, like, just overall, if you take a look at the saturation for Zethane, it's not great. But it's better than what I've got right now, right? If I were to build an energy plant, I would find myself in a pretty quick deficit. So I'll live with what I've been given. I think it's actually not a bad time for me to consider blowing up a few of these rocks too. So it'll generate waste, which is not ideal for me. And I think probably now is the time for me to clear out these remaining ruins. So let's just get those, at least as many of those as I can. Okay. Sorry, I need a minute to sort of think about my next step. So this shipyard's going to cost me 24 energy. I think it's fair to say that I'm not generating enough to sort of, even sustain what I have already. So let's assume for a minute, like, so I definitely have all the resources I need to build the shipyard. But let's maybe think a little bit more about my energy infrastructure. So let's just say that 24 is my baseline for the power that I need. Oh, cool. Well, the energy plant's going to give me 48. So that's more or less answered itself, actually. My preference, of course, would be to double it up, but let's not go crazy. I need to get something of a handle on my current state. Oh, I do want to see, so we've got the rocks, lots of rocks, generally doesn't generate anything, but I believe there is a possibility of extracting some kind of resource from the rocks. So that just generated waste. Admittedly, just 2 waste though, so it's not the end of the world. So I'm trying to leave a gap open just to have a roadway here. Whether or not it actually turns out... Oh, sorry. I thought it was isotopes, but it's not. It's just the tint. Okay, so we can already afford the energy plant. More importantly... Oh. Let's say how much this thing generates. I guess I gotta wait till somebody's using it. I'm going to assume that it's going to generate enough, otherwise we're screwed. And I suppose the next question is, where am I going to stick my big fancy new shipyard? I'm going to take these 20 influence, buy myself a new mineral patch. Olaf, thank you very much for the host. How you doing? Always good to see you. So for some reason I didn't take a look at this ruins before. Shame on me. I've been whining about, I got my second COVID vaccine, or well, the second dose of the COVID vaccine, and everybody, like, I've heard nothing but it hits like a truck. And, me being me, I'm like, yes, it is those lesser mortals who complain about such things. Obviously, I'm not going to be affected. I am, I'm made of magic. actual magic. How could I ever possibly be affected by this thing? Of course, I feel like I have been... What's the best way to... Basically, I feel like I've been on a luxury train ride through the Rockies, except that I've been on the undercarriage of that train, and the train has been made out of shillelaghs and wielded by everybody on the internet who hates me. So... Sorry for them, but I am better. System shock before the humans. Yeah. So again, I don't want to turn the stream into me just like constantly feeling sorry for myself. But yesterday I was in a very, very sorry state. I'm generally better now, but I could probably turn on my work slots again. But yeah, needless to say, I'm actually still quite stiff and sore, and I'm trying not to turn it into too much of a distraction from the stream. But yeah, I'm I'm being a little bit of a baby. Romonger, you are so looking for mine now. You have the exact same delusion. Oh yeah, Romonger. Like, especially if you didn't, like, if you didn't, I am told. Like, so here's the thing. Now that I know what my peers have been saying and how I reacted to it, like, I didn't really feel that much after the first dose. How do I put it? Like, I had soreness in the spot. I mean, I think that's standard for any vaccine. Like, you'll feel a soreness in the spot where you got it. But I didn't really register anything else about getting my first shot. So, I just kind of assumed that, that was it, right? But what is the one thing everyone says about the second dose, right? It's like that, especially if you didn't feel it on the first one, you're definitely gonna be affected by the second. So yeah, needless to say, unless you happen to be made of sterner stuff than me, which obviously is true, right? I would prep for calling in sick to work if you can. Although, in fairness, like, I probably should have called in sick today. Like, I did do my day's work. I know one of my colleagues was out for 3 days, so I'm maybe not quite at that level for that level of difficulty, but could be better. Your workplace has a special sick day notification for the vaccine. Yeah. If you don't mind you asking, what brand? Oh, how dare you, Night Valian. What corporate sponsor I want is what I care. So I was given the Moderna vaccine at the start. So I believe, at least as far as Ontario is concerned, if they are capable of matching the original authorized vaccine that you were given, they will prioritize that. If you were given AstraZeneca, that is no longer sort of an authorized vaccine, and so they will give you Moderna or Pfizer. And of course, if for whatever reason they're out of Moderna, they'll give you a Pfizer instead. But I am definitely... So one thing that actually really frustrated me about Canada was, for some reason, there seems to be this idea that the Pfizer vaccine is like the cool one. Oh, I can't believe I was this stupid. So I didn't connect this properly to my energy pylon. I gotta get a tier 3. So this is something I'm willing to draw down my energy reserves for. But yeah, so there's this really frustrating tendency in Canada that because Pfizer was apparently the more fashionable of the vaccines, you had people who were like reserving vaccine appointments, being offered Moderna, and because they wanted the quote unquote cool vaccine, the Pfizer one, would actually turn it down. As someone who struggled to get a vaccine appointment, that is incredibly annoying to me, because, you know, I'm sort of willing to trust the public health authorities on the efficacy of vaccines. If they say that there is no meaningful difference between Moderna and Pfizer, or that, you know, you should get the one that's available to you, I'm going to trust them on that and just go for what I was given. And given the fact that, you know, as one of the people who was not necessarily able to access a vaccine because of that kind of behavior, that was pretty much, yeah, that was tough. Well, Monger, I was originally in BC. That's where I went to university, and actually, if I could, I'd love to be back in Vancouver. But I'm currently based in Ontario because I moved out here for work. There's a couple other reasons why I moved out, but the reason I'm staying is for work for sure. And how you doing, Mushroom Sis? Pfizer has next to no side effects. Really? So like even in terms of like feeling sick afterward? Because I always thought like, so I don't know a lot about medicine, but I was always under the impression that you feeling sick was essentially your body like that was the, I don't know, that was like the processing of the vaccine. Like that was sort of your body, I guess, manufacturing your resistance. Sorry, I'm thinking of like, I don't have a really good way of describing it, but you had Pfizer, and the day after, and only the day after, you had muscle aches and nausea. Yeah, okay, so I'll be done. We're kind of in the same boat. I mean, admittedly, I'm on my second day, and I am definitely in a bit of pain as far as the aches are concerned. It's actually worse than it was in the morning. I thought it was fine this morning, but it was really the day after where I just definitely felt flattened out. I thought you were a wimp who went to bed early anyway, but now I know you're EST. Yeah, man. So Raw Margaret, like, I used to get really frustrated. Not like, you know, I declare this friendship over kind of frustrated, but like I used to get really frustrated with some of my Eastern-based friends because like I wanted to do gaming with them, and it would always feel like they were ditching me like way too early. I'm just going to shift the isotope priorities. Because I need to get that energy plant online really quick. But yeah, I was just sort of like, I always kind of thought they were just being a bit of a flake, and then like I've still really not properly adapted to like the Eastern time zone, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, I mean, what I've really noticed is Brian on the Rocks stream. So Brian on the Rocks is my, a friend of mine who works at Respawn on Apex Legends. And he's been doing quite a bit of streaming lately. And just to sort of like see him, like just when he refers to what time it is in Vancouver, just reminds me of how big that difference is. The really embarrassing thing is that there have definitely been times when I know I've been going to sleep after him. So, you know, adding 3 hours to that is a little embarrassing, but that's just me being an idiot, I think. PST's a weird time zone. It doesn't fit with anyone else. Well, that used to be, again, one of the worst things that I think you can do as far as being entertaining on Twitch is to just constantly talk about like Twitch stuff. But on the other hand, I do think there's sometimes, to me at least, for the same reason I like watching making of documentaries for like games and movies, I think there's probably some interest in terms of just the behind the scenes details of Twitch. Like one thing that I definitely know in terms of the overall sort of size of the channel and the growth, part of that was attributable to the fact that I streamed somewhat late in the PST zone, because generally there is definitely I'd say there's a pretty high density of broadcasters in the Eastern time zone. And I mean, that's really just following populations, right? Okay, now I can afford to turn everything on. And so one thing that was really working for me was the fact that there would be people who, for whatever reason, were... it wasn't just people in Pacific time, but it was people in Europe. It was people who had odd hours in... maybe who had odd hours in other, in the Eastern time zone. Just generally, it was one of these nice little spots as far as being able to meet a demand. Because, like, if you just do it as a hobby, which is what I do, you're not going to go out of your way to stream at a special time. You're going to stream at a time that it's fun for you, because that's really the only thing that's motivating you to stream, right? And if you're in the Western time zone, particularly if you're willing to go a little bit late, what's happening is that you're running into this nice dead zone where everybody else who does this as a hobby is asleep, and so as a result, you have almost kind of this captive audience. Now, obviously, none of that stuff's going to be a substitute for talent, consistency, any other luck, social networks. There's a number of other factors that play into success on these platforms. So, I'm not trying to suggest that, time zone is destiny or anything like that. But it is definitely something that I personally benefited from, for sure. If everyone, your stream is Australian, you have a weird schedule. Yeah. I don't know if I count Uncle Cranky as Australian, because I know he's based in New Zealand, but obviously originally from Australia. It's at the very least the same time zone. But I guess Outworld and Uncle Cranky are my two Aussie comrades. All right, let's think about what I want to do with my influence. I guess we're not really generating any more isotopes right now, so let's grab the last patch. Upgrading the work shed was really just a chance for me to try and boost up those numbers. I do need to start thinking. I need to really seriously think about where this shipyard's going to come from. I suppose if I've got surplus, influence, I can actually clear things out and just build this shipyard off to the side here. The drawback is I'm going to need to find a place to put all of this waste. Oh, I didn't know you were... Sorry, Rob. I'm mistaking you for someone else. For some reason, I think maybe it's just the color. I think it's because your name starts with an R and because of the color of your ID. For some reason, I was thinking you were Rouge Light Girl. I think at this point I can think I'm going to switch the priorities back to minerals. I know we're going to be short. Wow, we really only have 3. So we've got 2 people on processors. We've got 1 in a fuel turbine. We've got 1 in an energy plant. So to me, that counts as 4 full-time jobs. Oh, that's right. But we got people working on the different patches. So we got 1 working the isotope patch. What about the... Yeah, then there's the mineral patch. Okay, so clearly we need a conversion center. You're the noisy neighbor from one province over? Quebec or Manitoba? If it's a noisy neighbor, I would have to assume... yeah, I was going to say, I was just thinking, it was like, well, if it's noisy neighbor, it would have to be Quebec. But, I mean, Quebec's wonderful, right? Like, Kid Fox is based there. I've got an aunt in Montreal. Actually, so now that I've got my second vaccine, I know my aunt, like, I've run out of the excuses not to visit family. So I suspect she'll have a very reasonable question as to why I haven't stopped by. Oh, that's right, it's 6. So tier 3 is best for that one. Yeah, this'll do. But yeah, no, I mean, Kid Fox is based there, Allison Smith. Obviously, then there's the larger studios as well. And of course, probably the more important fact, because like here's the thing, like just because there's a game developer that's based in a given city doesn't really mean anything because it's all digitally distributed anyway. But obviously, the culture there, I really enjoyed visiting. And actually, was when I was in high school, we also participated in a jazz festival. So, Boyfriend Dungeon, a publisher of Dwarf Fortress, obviously Bay 12 are the developers. And they also did Lucifer Within Us, and they were the publisher for, forgive me, 6 Ages, which is the sequel to King of Dragon Pass. They will be publishing Paparazzi and Mondo Museum. I'm personally really looking forward to Mondo Museum. And also The Shrouded Isle. Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like, I'm based in Ottawa, so I kind of have the option for... I would have the option to, to live in Quebec if I wanted. Part of the decision was actually, like, there's just something very weird about being able to, like, shift a couple of kilometers over and pay more or less in tax. So... Although, honestly, if taxes were the only reason for me to live somewhere, I'd 100% go back to BC. Or, obviously, Alberta has even less, but it's Alberta, so no. Yeah, just slightly more. But, so I technically don't need this right now, but I have the artifact, so I'll go for it. Sorry, I'm used to just hitting the rightmost option, and I'm bringing up my advisors now. Just don't want to pay for all your socialism. I guess if I'm going to talk like that, I should be focusing on how I can move down south. But yeah, no, I really like visiting Montreal. And I actually got to see the art museum there. So I'm lucky. Like, the museums in Ottawa are wonderful. The War Museum's great. I went to the National Gallery. I got to see the Rembrandt exhibit, which is wonderful. I've been to the Museum of Nature. I'd really like to go back to it. Canadian History Museum is another really good one. And then there's other stuff which I haven't seen yet. So there's the Diefenbunker. There's the Cold War Museum there, which is different from the War Museum. There's obviously a Cold War sort of exhibit at the War Museum. There's actually a fragment of the Berlin Wall, which is really interesting, particularly because you can see on the wall which part was in Eastern Germany and which one was in Western Germany. But it's obviously, if you're going to be in the nation's capital, there's going to be quite a few cultural things to experience. But it's just one of these things. Like Vancouver, I really only got to appreciate how wonderful that city is after I'd left it. And I definitely have an appreciation for the fact that there is very often a lot of things in your backyard which you will sometimes only really appreciate once you've left. So I'm definitely trying to avail myself of all of the experiences that Ottawa has to offer. All right, so this shouldn't interrupt any of my well, there's a small hitch logistics-wise. So if I could build it this way, that would be better. Question is, am I willing to wait that long? I think the answer to that is no. So I can always move it elsewhere later. Come over once in a while just to pay our sales taxes. Yeah, no, it's like, I'll admit, like, it's not, if I could have a choice of anywhere to live, I probably wouldn't pick Ottawa, and it's just simply because there's something really weird about so many stores, like, closing up at, like, 6 o'clock or something like that. It's just, that's unfathomable to me. The fact that I actually have to kind of hunt around for a coffee in the evening, because, like, I remember in Vancouver, I'd always, like, just find a coffee place late at night, and I'd get some writing done. And that just can't happen here. There might be a few sort of, late night coffee places, but we're talking like McDonald's and Tim Hortons, and I categorically refuse to go to Tim Hortons unless I have a gift card or somebody just really wants to meet me there. Like, I strongly dislike Tim Hortons for all sorts of reasons. But not enough to be a jerk. Like, if somebody wants to meet, obviously the point is meeting them, not to, like, give them some manifesto about why I don't like their favorite coffee chain. But yeah, no, it's super weird, because most places, like, I grew up in Kelowna. Kelowna definitely felt like that, but the thing is that I lived in a really remote part of Kelowna. So I was very much used to just being at home, or when I was out, it would usually be just after being in school or something like that. Like the idea of sort of being out late was very foreign, because, when you're growing up, it's not like you have a lot of independence. You don't really have that much in terms of the ability to kind of go out and around. And so it was not really unusual for me to, like, have an early finish to whatever I was doing. Whereas sort of now, I'm independent. I have lots of stuff I want to do, and I generally have a preference for just doing stuff in the evening. And to go from Vancouver, where it sort of felt like I could get anything at any time, to Ottawa, where it's not just like, it's to me, I kind of wonder how these businesses just keep running. They close so early. And the weird thing is, like, I realize that I'm the weirdo in this story, right? Like, everybody else is able to just handle, going to home and, like, going to bed at a decent hour. But yeah, for me, it's definitely it's definitely still a weird one for me, even though I've been living here a few years. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's pretty clear to me that, Vancouver I originally did because I wanted to work in film, and of course I did work in film. That's not really the reason. Like, that's not really the reason why I would want to be there now. But, like, even, everything you hear about, the cost of living is true. but even with that in mind, like I still think it's, you know, it's an ideal place for me. I think I'll lock in this minerals patch. I don't think I'm not gonna get anybody to work it just because it's really clear I'm short on workers. But I can at least keep the stream of new workers coming in. Yeah, actually, so that was one of two things, which was, so I'd been to Montreal before, but although I know you're putting the accent, so I should at least try and say Montreal or something. Hey, Popo Panda. Good to see you. Guys, for those of you who don't know, actually there's two people I should be shouting out. So, Night Valian, I have this really bad habit. I haven't been shouting you out as soon as I see your name in chat, and it's definitely not a case of familiarity breeds contempt. But I am a little scatterbrained, so as always, Night Valian is a Brazilian streamer that I found through Kit Fox's games, particularly Lucifer Within Us, and he actually tends to start and finish later than me. So for those of you who liked me at my old hours, Night Valian is a wonderful replacement for that because he streams very, very late into the day. Just blame the vaccine. Yeah. I'm gonna be milking that vaccine excuse for as long as I possibly can. But yes, there's Night Valian and Popo Panda, who I believe I found through Stellaris, playing a Necroid Megacorp. Now, Popo Panda is not limited to Stellaris. If memory serves, you were last playing a New World. Again, I feel really bad about this because I've definitely screwed up who was playing certain games, and I have definitely been on the receiving end of someone who hasn't watched me in years pulling the whole, it's like, hey, yeah, you're still playing that, like, strategy game, right? And it's something that I haven't played in, like, you know, since like my first year on Twitch, and I'm like, yeah, I know you don't show up. Just I'm not mad that you don't show up. I'm mad that you tried to claim that you were watching. But anyways, that bit of awkwardness aside, I did find Popo Panda through Stellaris, but definitely is a variety streamer on Twitch. The one I have been seeing most frequently is New World, but I know that is not what you're limited to. It just happens to be what I've been watching you play recently. And you switch up games throughout the week. Yeah, like for me, I'm in a similar boat. So I didn't stream on Monday because it was a holiday, but that's my usual Stellaris day. Wednesday I will do the Brace Yourself games. So, and actually I didn't mention this off the top, so I apologize particularly for those of you who watch on the VOD. But Brace Yourself did give me a copy of this game for promotional purposes. So it's obviously been a while since I've first been streaming this. But on the other hand, generally if you're streaming a game, it is kind of considered to be an endorsement. And it is actually rather important to disclose that sort of stuff. So I do apologize. I should be a little bit more, like, it's like I want to make sure I at least do a proactive disclosure of that, you know, at least once a broadcast. But I do sort of think it behooves one to, like, do that a little more often. Because, like, that puts the burden on someone to, like, show up at the very start of the stream to be informed. But yeah, needless to say, I'm obviously very grateful to Brace Yourself for getting access to the game. I obviously enjoy this game quite a bit. But if you are making a purchasing decision for the game, you should probably know that, you know, I'm only in it for the money. No, I was given this key for promotional purposes. Although I did buy my Steam copy. Because I was actually really annoyed at how unfair one of the reviews was. And I said, so if you I don't know if you know this, but on Steam, if you want to have your vote count towards like the positive or very positive rating for a game, you actually need to have bought it on Steam. Your review will be in the list, but Steam actually, for the purposes of rating the positivity of the game, like the ratio that will give it like positive, very positive, mostly positive, that sort of stuff, It will only count the people who bought the game on Steam. So if you got it in a Humble Bundle, your review doesn't actually count the same as someone who's bought the game. So yeah. I was sufficiently annoyed, and I like Brace Yourself enough. I mean, just listen to the soundtrack, right? I as I'm fond of saying, anger is my cardio. So I went out and bought myself a copy of Industries of Titan so that my voice could be heard. Anyways, that disclosure aside, what was I going to say? But yeah, so as a result, Brace Yourself kind of have their own day on the channel now. So they've got two new games. So they've done Crypt of the Necrodancer. I don't have a Switch, so I can't really do Cadence of Hyrule. But they've also got Phanta Brigade, which is currently on the Epic Store, and you can wishlist on Steam, but it is not yet available on Steam. And I'll usually kind of go for whichever one's gotten the most recent update. And then Friday is a little bit more free than most days, but I do tend to sort of like latch on to at least one game. So lately, we've been doing Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. So you pay to yell at people. Got it. Absolutely. You always find Steam reviews to be funny when the user has 0.3 hours and gives it a negative review. The funny thing is that I actually, there's a very wide perspective on that, because there's like some people who will look at 200 hours in a game and see someone leaving a negative review, and then that invites the question of, is like, well, you sure seem to have gotten a whole lot out of it. I suppose anyone would be inclined to leave a negative review if it was under 2 hours, just because it's possible that they've reviewed it. And like refunded it. Of course, now, now Steam tells you whether or not they refunded it. I suppose, like, in the end, everybody's going to have their own reasons. The one that actually drives me crazy are the ones where they're like, I'd give this a thumbs up, but it's not worth $20. This is a $5 game at most. And I'm like, okay, well, because I'm not a cheapskate, I maybe don't care what you think this game is worth. I care whether or not you think this game is good, and you have somehow managed to screw up the one useful bit of information you could have given me. But I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, everybody's going to have their opinion about what a game review is. There's obviously like some people who do Steam reviews who like clearly wish that they were writing for PC Gamer. And I think just like the one thing I will credit Valve with, and it's something that actually annoys me about their system, but I at least understand why they do it, which is the fact that they went for a thumbs up, thumbs down system. Because ratings thermometers are really hard to do, and it's like there's really no good way of coming up with like a sufficiently granular rating system that sort of does what you think it will do. So I actually think that the thumbs up, thumbs down in general is not as bad as you would think. On the other hand, I also do think that the Steam review system tends to penalize like interesting games. So like the thing is that interesting games are potentially polarizing games. Like they're not necessarily ones that will appeal to everyone. And of course, if you are going to, if you're gonna sort of make a very stark choice that's not necessarily going to appeal to everyone. Sorry, just 1 second. It means that like a game that has a 50% is something you're probably going to think twice about buying. What it could actually mean, though, is that it's a game that knows what it's about and is not trying to appeal to everyone. But of course, it's something that will potentially be penalized because you're probably not going to take the time to work out that nuance. You're probably instead going to take the time to, to see what the, what that very positive game is instead. you read some PC Gamer reviews that were pretty terrible too. Yeah, I actually don't really read I don't really read movie or games reviews. I do read book reviews though. Like book reviews seem to be untainted by, like I think just a lot of reviews have forgotten why they exist. Like criticism doesn't necessarily mean sitting down and saying the stuff you didn't like about something. Criticism can often be engaging and sort of like taking the measure of a work. And so I have one print subscription, and that's to Foreign Affairs. And every time I read a book review in Foreign Affairs, I feel better informed about the subject of the book. They're not particularly long reviews, but they do this really wonderful like overview of the subject that the book is covering. And they're definitely not all positive. There are quite a few where it's really clear that the book did not live up to their expectations. But I generally feel like the subject of the book is presented in in context. So like if it's a book on, dissent in Russia, for instance, it would not be unusual to sort of walk away from that review feeling like you have a better idea of, the history of dissent in Russia from the czars through the Soviet Union to modern day. And obviously that's a little bit better than a laundry list of like spelling mistakes that the book made or something. So I'm just going to take a second to sip some tea. But yeah, I mean, to each their own, right? Like, obviously, so, one thing that people tend to complain about on Epic, and I'm not actually convinced that the Epic Store would be any better for this, because if nothing else, I think you do need to hit a certain critical mass of users for this to be useful. So like, for instance, GOG has reviews, but I don't know of anyone who uses a GOG review to make a buying decision for a game. It's also a 5-star rating system, so if you want to see the limits of a 5-star rating system, go take a look at GOG reviews. It's pretty clear, right? If I want to take people at their word about things they don't like about the Epic Store, it's because it doesn't have user reviews. And I think Epic has a very clear idea about the fact that they do not like the Steam review system. I actually think they have a point on that. But I do also need to take people seriously if they say, I don't like the Epic Store because I'm not able to see user reviews. At which point I say, have you ever heard of Twitch? Like, do you not think you could get the stuff that you feel that you need on Twitch? So you just check out GOG to see if it's cheaper on Steam. Mini buildings, like in this game, you mean? Rama, like I can see how this one kind of counts. All right, sorry, I've been sort of ranting on about things unrelated to Industries of Titan, but I do eventually need to build a ship. And we're full up on employees, so I guess the time is now. So the simplest thing we could build would be a Goshawk, and it's 200. The Gearfalcon would be 225 and 250 for the Harpagus. But honestly, we don't really need all that much. This isn't going to be a pure scouting. I am gonna build this properly. Now that surprises me a little bit. But yeah, for now, I'm going to worry about getting the employee numbers up. I think we're okay for tier 3 minerals for now, so I'm actually going to just shift things in the production hut for a bit. Let's turn off the mineral input for now. So we can produce tier 3 isotopes, but tier 3 minerals will be on hold for a little bit. And this is just because I need to get some tier 2 minerals to fill my warships with some goodies. But as long as I can get that Goshawk in the air and shooting down rebel threats early, we should be fine. Although, I'll confess, I was hoping to have a little more progress before we wrapped up for tonight. I'll maybe talk a little bit about the overall structure. So I definitely got lucky on this run in the sense that I had the access to the fuel turbine right away. We obviously have a whole bunch of mineral and isotope resources as well, so I can build a mine whenever I want, and you know it's not going to be all that difficult. What does it cost? I guess there's no reason why I shouldn't upgrade the headquarters. Especially because it'll give access to some more ruins. I guess the biggest worry right now would be defending my territory. I think the aggressiveness of Revel expansion has been pulled back, although I don't think it would hurt to... get a little... I don't know, just get a little bit of a sense of urgency in terms of taking him out. But yeah, I think priority number 1 is going to be the ship. And then following that, maybe I'll start thinking about how I can get some proper infrastructure down. There's 2 big things I want to do, which is number 1, get my fiscal house in order. We should be, we've been able to build some more workers for a while. Sorry, get some more citizens, and we have the conversion center, so we should be able to get the more workers. Yeah, at 85% rebel threat, though, we really need to be thinking about how this ship's going to work. So, let's start by thinking about weaponry. I think in this case here, probably a pair of small lasers makes the most sense. Obviously, they're the most nimble out of the options. Medium laser is probably not a bad... There's definitely some reasons to pick the mediums, but I think 2 small will be enough. We don't need to have someone in a generator anymore, so there's actually an argument where I would only need 1 life support pod. Okay, so actually let's try that. So let's stick a couple... Okay, so in theory if we do that, so 1 for life support, let's try and do 1 for a medical pod just in case. So if we do that, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need 4 energy generation. We can get 6 out of a medium generator. Okay, cool. So I pretty much know how I'm going to build this ship. So I'll put a small fuel fabricator. I messed up with the generator, did I? So that's got to be a tier 3 build. I can't do this because I'd entomb the... I would entomb the generator. Fortunately, I have a big scary relay I can stick down here. There is a question as to whether or not... Oh, that's 6. Oh, hang on. This placement doesn't work as well as I thought. Let's just pause this for a second. Oh no, it does. So this is a little more survivable than the it's a little more survivable than the single relay. And what I'll try and do here is just keep everything that needs power up in this side of the ship. So again, I'm a little resistant to putting a medical pod on this, but I don't know. I feel like it's something I should do. Let's get a battery or two down as well. Okay, that'll lock me out, so I also need to remember that I got to put down some life support too. Because clearly putting all of my essential systems in one place is a very, very good idea, right? My relay, my med bay, my laser, and my life support all in the same area, and no shields to protect them. Well, if we're generating 6, I guess if I put a light shield down, but then that would take me another employee, so yeah, we'll live dangerously. Okay, crew pod. Easy enough. And I don't need to go crazy on fuel, but I do want to make sure that we have enough, so... Oh yeah, also engines would not be a bad idea. I hear that those are very helpful on ships. Just label your essential systems, not critical systems. Yes, we are actually on Titan, Roarmonger. So there's actually a whole there's a bunch of backstory for this, and they keep adding to it. So there were some new updates to the codex in this patch to deal with both the new filters. Oh hey, the naming of empty plots are back. I should sell this for bits. Yeah, no, there's actually a fairly well thought out sort of backstory. Not necessarily all of which has been revealed, but there's definitely a quite a bit of thought that's been put into not just the fact that it's on Titan, but why everybody's on Titan. You returned with better check-in. Did you win? I did not win, Night Valiant, but I did finally shout you out, which I apparently forget to do when you show up in chat. I always do it like half an hour after you show up. Okay, so we upgraded our HQ, but I didn't actually take advantage of the surveying, so actually it looks like there's only one... Looks like there's only one building that I can really survey. I suppose if I want I can demolish a bunch of rocks, but that's just going to generate more waste for me to get rid of, and I currently don't have... I clearly don't have enough... I don't have enough space to be able to destroy or to burn the waste. So I do, however, need to get this ship up and running really quick. So a large fuel tank's going to cost me 8. Is there even a decent place I can put it? I mean, I know my crew can, walk through their crew pods, but I don't like it. I think I'll just accept that this is not the best use of space, and maybe I'll just live with what I've been given. Okay, so we got 3 crew members on board. Which device is under construction? The remaining fuel tank. Okay, so we'll be ready to deal with the rebel threat when it emerges. You're not working at full capacity lately, you deserve a break. Well, okay, the one thing I will share, there is a way of talking about projects that you're doing to either make it sound very smug or like to artificially create a mystery to make you sound more important than you are. So let me just say that in response to an article that I did, a couple of developers have given me access to some data for their games, which is really great, and it's something that gives me an opportunity to sort of work with game data, which is something I'm interested in working with. However, obviously, if they wanted that information to be made public, they would release that information publicly. And generally, I have done so on the understanding that I will not be talking about their data except in ways that they have... so for me, unless they've explicitly said that I can talk about it in that specific way, I need to shut up. And one of the things that I have found most useful is that if you don't let people know you have access to it, then they're not going to ask you the kinds of questions which will make you even remotely come close to testing the boundaries of those kinds of commitments. So while I don't think any of the companies would be particularly mad for letting you know that I'm looking at some of their data, I also wonder, like, why exactly would I be doing that? Chances are the reasons for doing so would be either to impress you with somebody else's accomplishments, i.e. what that company has done, or it would be to take credit for an accomplishment I haven't quite done yet, because presumably when I finish the project for them, there will be some sort of analytical artifact that comes out of it, and then I'll just take the credit for that when I do it. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that there's not necessarily a good reason for me to mention that stuff other than to sort of boast, and I don't really see there being a lot of value to doing that kind of boasting personally. But with that in mind, I had been working on, and I've alluded to it before, I've been working on some data stuff for, I think at the very least, a very interesting developer. And it's a pretty decent little trove of data, and it's been working on a problem that I haven't had to solve before. So I actually haven't done a lot of work with time series. I've worked with panel data before, but that's different from just working with a pure time series. So this has been an opportunity for me to learn a little bit about time series. It's been an opportunity for me to learn a little bit about some machine learning methods. In fact, I've always had this suspicion that machine learning was a bit overrated for time series, but now I actually have the confirmation that I think they're maybe not as impressive as people like to make them out to be when it comes to time series applications. It was just a nice, there's one thing to, I've got a ton of textbook, so I've been reading a lot to try and bring myself up to speed, but obviously just being able to get your hands dirty and make some mistakes, is valuable in and of itself. I really should be availing myself of these topics, but I'm lazy. But anyways, because I have been... Actually, okay, so there's two things that happened. One, I worked on a big article. I've been working on it since earlier this year, so probably... The earliest recorded date I have for this is April, but I know I was working on it earlier. And then I saw an article that someone just put out, and it's totally the same thing I was working on. I was sitting on this nice, great data set that anybody could look up and nobody had used yet, and sure enough, somebody found it and they got an article out, and it was actually one of those big data projects that I had sorry, when I say big data, I mean a big project, not as in big data, the analytical term. And that was one of those projects that was lost with that virtual machine dying. there's a number of projects that I lost, but that was the big one, and it's a very time-consuming one for me to try and rebuild. And anyways, I was like, as soon as that article came out August the 1st, and I couldn't believe it. Like, and again, it's so easy to sound like super bitter about that stuff, right? Like, the big thing is that overall, it's a really good thing for me if more people do analytical articles and such, because it means that there's an overall level of statistical literacy that goes up. And if I'm so clever, then, you know, I just wait for the next one, and people will realize my genius, and, you know, they'll be able to take advantage of whatever really smart things I do. But obviously, because I've spent so much time working on something, you know, to ultimately still not have an article. And of course, the fact now that, you know, through no real fault of anyone's, this is just going to be seen as me sort of like riding the coattails of this article. Like, you know, I just kind of picked my job off the floor, and I was like, okay, I don't care what, you know. And then also there was that other job that I was trying to apply to, and seeing that, you know, just, I think again, it was up for such a small period of time, like missing out on what seemed like a cool job opportunity to even just apply to it, because, you know, I left it too long. I definitely sort of made a commitment to myself. I was like, I need to get stuff done, because ideas aren't enough. What people care about are implementations. And, you know, I might have been sick, but I was determined to, like, hit this milestone. There's still more work for me to do on this project, but, like, I hit a point where I was like, okay, I am ready to show off some stuff to people. And I am actually specifically at a point where I could really benefit from some feedback on what I've done. So I will admit, the video that I made for the developer was not the strongest bit of presentation that I've ever done. Like I said, I'm vaccine addled, and I was definitely, like, I pretty much was fresh off the presses in terms of the work that I'd done. So it wasn't the most organized presentation that I've given, but I think the important thing is that the work got done, and I'm trying to build a little bit more of a framework of, like, if I can get something done that day, get it done that day, and if I can't get it done that day, at least demonstrate that I did as much as I could to getting that thing as close to release. So, like, data analytics up front. Yeah, I mean, this is the other thing too. Like, one of the things that I find, like, data is definitely cool now. And as a whole, I actually like that trend, because, like I said, you know, you can sort of view that your value added is this, you know, little corner of the world that you have private information to, either because, like, you went to university, or because, you know, you have read a stack of textbooks or something like that. This is very sad. 24 waste. Obviously we'll destroy that, not salvage it. But we don't need to do that right now. But the thing is that, like, my view is always, like, if you're so clever, then, you know, show that cleverness through doing good work, not through, like, trying to sort of, you know, get this claim on, I don't know, like, the analytical landscape, or however you're supposed to term it. Like, I don't know. I just think there's better ways of approaching this sort of stuff. So, you know, being able to have people work with data and, like, appreciate it. Again, it helps inform the conversation, and as a whole, it leaves us in a better spot. I think the one small drawback is that because data stuff can often be very fraught. Like, I mean, even Isaac Newton wound up doing stuff in probability that was wrong, because, like, probability is actually very counterintuitive a lot of the time. One of the drawbacks is that it can very often feel like data stuff is also very perilous. And especially on the internet, there is a tendency for people to really like pointing out when you're wrong and not necessarily give you credit when you've done something good. I've actually been very lucky in that regard, which is that usually when I do an article that I'm proud of, I will hear from people, I liked that thing that you did. And I don't, obviously I don't want to sound like super needy. I should be kind of confident enough in a job well done that I don't necessarily need that external validation. But it's nice to hear nonetheless. And I don't know. I just think there is definitely some value in being able to help people work through a difficulty in a way that will enhance their understanding and as a result make them a better analyst. And then there's a way of just nitpicking at work. So I remember, I'm not going to say what developer this was. It's actually somebody whose games I've played on stream before. You think Newton got the probability of turning lead into gold wrong? Yeah, that's another. That is another branch of Newton's intellectual output that perhaps was not the thing we care to remember him for. I mean, I'm sure for him it was completely consistent to see alchemy as a just a function of the other stuff that he was doing, but I'm not smart enough to be able to quite see how the two are related. Anyways, so there's that Kit Fox article that I did last year, and it's really obvious the guy didn't read the article, because Kit Fox definitely ran everything by me. They definitely did a good job of making an attention-getting opener and headline, but I also suspect that the headline was one which is going to be one of these things where people will read the headline and not the article. And so this guy just comes in and doesn't ask, says, it's but that's net, that's not gross, it's going to be at least, 50% less or something like that. I'm just looking to myself and I deal with this in the opening 2 paragraphs, of the net versus gross thing. And then more importantly, I'm looking at the data and there's no conceivable way that it would be half. How many people are returning your game if you think it's half? But again, it's just one of these things, right? That if you establish yourself as quote unquote a data guy, one of the ways that you can...
A new founder. Did you really think your little startup would escape our notice? We know you're taking money from the council, and we know exactly where your loyalties lie. Don't worry, we're only going to destroy your city, dismantle your corporation, and take you as prisoner. It won't be painful, at least no more than the pain you've inflicted on your employees.
Ah, so I see you met Bahar Koroba, founder. They are the leader of one of the many disparate and desperate groups that call themselves rebels. The council will not waste resources on this, but you'll have plenty to spare, I'm sure. Deal with Bahar, founder, or risk my displeasure. Yeah, so again, I don't want to belabor the point, but again, if you establish yourself as a data guy, one of the most effective ways to sort of keep that reputation is just to sort of dump on a quote unquote challenger's work, and that just it makes sure that the right people are noticing that you're still in charge. And obviously there's a more constructive way of engaging with that sort of thing. So it's tough, right? Because in one sense it's very good to actually help people out and point out ways that things can be improved. Wow. I really want to Really want to get the repairs done, it looks like. This would have been better if I had the two lasers going, but I'll keep the default repair settings for now. This should hopefully be a somewhat easy fight. Ah, there we go. So we're gonna keep them tied up the same way they were tying us up, just jumping between the two laser beams. We could also try and like take out a crew member, but I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, no, it's just one of these ones where like obviously you can, particularly if you're sensitive to criticism, like one of the things that can really easily happen is to like fear people like that coming out of the woodwork. And what happens is we actually wind up losing a lot of really interesting analytical output just because, you know, somebody might have found something interesting, but, you know, because there is that fear that maybe they got it wrong and that, you know, someone's going to point it out to them how wrong they are, you know, it's maybe just not worth it to them or otherwise, you know, too intimidating. You know, there's any number of motivations as to why, you know, you might want to sit on a result. Oh, that's a shame. We would have. Okay, I should be able to. Yeah. So this is kind of a formality now. But yeah, again, we all lose out on that just because, you know, in the end, if somebody wants to feel better about themselves by dragging someone else down, it's hard to stop that. On the other hand, too, like just to give you an idea, like there are constructive ways of pointing stuff out. So, like, here's a really good example for those of you who know a little bit about data. It is very common in a lot of applications to take a logarithm of a dependent variable. Or, well, I mean, even an independent variable. But, like, the right-hand side variable, it's not uncommon to take the natural logarithm. And this could be because it's, you know, you want to interpret the coefficient of a logged independent variable as an elasticity or a percentage if you're dealing with a level. It might be because it helps you deal with so sometimes if you run into heteroscedasticity, you'll find that taking the log will get rid of that. You know, you could be dealing with something that theory tells you is a multiplicative relationship, but taking the natural log will be able to break those up into... So this is just properties of logs. In this case, taking the log allows you to have it in that nice linear form that you'll remember from your statistics class. There's a lot of different ways that you can motivate that choice. It's a really common thing to have happen. It's also very common for people to then take that estimate. So like usually when you get a fitted value, you'll call it, you know, like you'll put a hat over it. So you'll have like log y hat. And because normally the way that you will convert something, you know, back to its original, like often you'll want to convert it back to its original value. And one of the ways that you can accomplish that in just normal mathematics is to exponentiate it. So, you know, it's e to the power of log whatever you were looking at. So because you can do that in math, it's perfectly reasonable to assume that that's what you do to the fitted value. And the problem here is that if you do that, you're not following the rule that we all learn in algebra, which is something that you do to the left-hand side is something that you need to do on the right-hand side. And the trick is because basically stats don't really work without the error term. there's an error term which is very easy to forget, but is there. And when you take the exponent of your, the equation that you did the regression on, that error term doesn't just go away. In fact, if you basically if you exponentiate your log dependent variable, I'm like 90% sure you can show that you will underestimate the real value. It's something that you can very easily fix. So if you take the sum of the exponentiated residuals and then divide it by the number of observations, that is a correction that you can do. It's called a smearing estimate. And you don't even need like the assumption of normality for that one. It's actually it's a pretty cool adjustment that's easy to do. But the thing is, if you don't know to do it, I don't really think it's automatically implemented. It's definitely not automatically implemented in like the Python modules. And it's one of these things that I've seen like professional economists fail to do. There are some where I actually saw one where they didn't do it, but they actually put a footnote as to why that didn't actually apply in their particular case, and they were correct to do it. But I've definitely seen cases where people who should know better have not done it, and then there's sort of just the tap dance around why I was actually wrong to point that out. And of course, the reason I point that out is not to like score points, but rather, hey, this is, I think this is what you want to do, and that's not doing that thing you want to do. This thing is going to do what you want to do. But again, like, that's a very different framing, and of course, online you're generally not going to see that. Online, you're usually going to just see something in all capitals that says, "Hey, you idiot! Don't you know you can't just take the, e power of log hat. You need to do this thing. It's called the smearing estimate." Like, if you bother to read your textbook, like obviously we've all seen these internet comments, right? So it's tough. And I mean, in the end, I'm just kind of responding to something that Night Valiant said about liking data and analytics are fun. Like, I think one of the things that's really nice is that with tools like Python, more and more people are able to do just sort of stuff that they find interesting. Most governments have not just their national statistical agencies, but sort of these open data mandates in an effort to try and share as much data as possible with people. And so it means that we have access to a lot of really interesting data sets to get, a better information of essentially the world that we live in. And so it's really, you would hope that this is the sort of thing that people are taking advantage of in order to be able to, just have a better idea of what's going on. But sometimes I guess sometimes we just let our egos get the better of us, and unfortunately, it can mean that we miss out on something that would have otherwise been interesting, just because instead of celebrating an effort or trying to build somebody up in terms of the work that they were doing, the effort was instead to just kind of score some points on the internet. So I think I'm going to build the pylon. Well, I have to dismantle it first.
Ah, I see you're smarter than the other founders have been. Don't worry, we'll be back. Consider this your first and final warning. Next time, we will end you.
Good thing you don't have an ego. I'm way
Glad
above
we got
that.
out of that one. That was Bahar Karoba, one of the rebel leaders. I thought we might be toast for a second there. They're known to be particularly brutal. If they say they'll be back, I believe them. We should prepare for next time.
This is kind of neat, actually. So it looks like they changed the voice line. I remember one of the original lines for Bahar was like, "I underestimated you," or at least I underestimated, what the council's money could buy. And I'm like, you lost. Get over it. But yeah, no, I like the new dialogue. And yeah, I mean, I made like way too much mileage out of that, but it's a shame. Like it's one of these things where it's obviously just the difference between short-term and long-term thinking, right? You can feel so good dunking on someone on Twitter, or you can feel really smart to like point out a mistake in an analytical paper. Econ seminars are notorious for at least one guy, if not a room of those guys, and it is always guys, just throwing their weight around on, some of the most esoteric subjects sometimes. And unfortunately, the cost of that is just, people who have got better things to do with their time, ultimately taking that opportunity and going off and not contributing to, a field that I think is very interesting, and I would really hope to see more good work happen. Wait a minute, did we just turn this into... We did. All right. I guess this is the better spot for it. But yeah, I don't know. Like I think it's the one thing is that like obviously in terms of me receiving feedback, I try not to get too precious about stuff. Because in the end, feedback is feedback, and I want to get better at stuff. In terms of giving it, I definitely want to try and give it in a spirit of making something better. Although I definitely also think one thing I could stand to do is to make sure that it's communicated in a way that that the other side, like obviously there's a certain burden on me to make sure that it is being communicated in a way that it is about improving and not just a chance to, crush whatever they were working on. But like I said, again, in terms of short-term stuff, like you feel super good when you point out somebody being wrong online. And chances are you're not going to recognize the cost, and that cost is going to be, you have no idea who you put. I mean, so like, the potential cost is that you actually find out that what you're talking to is an expert in their field, and that you just look like an idiot. But the longer term one is just in the end, like whether it's on the micro level and you just become somebody who people don't want to approach about given subjects, or at the macro level where we create a culture in which people are less willing to share insights that they have for fear of, opening the door to the room where everybody calls you an idiot. Obviously, we potentially set ourselves up for disappointment in some cases, by not being a little more thoughtful in terms of our words and how we use them. So I don't know. This is just me being a fuzzy old hippie. Really, what I just wanted to talk to is like, I personally actually think it's really encouraging that data stuff is cool. There's always that worry, right? Because like data is really the only thing I can kind of claim to have some sort of added value on. So, you kind of don't want to see your moat eroded. Like obviously, if everybody can do my data stuff, that potentially undervalues, my contribution. But I don't know, like if my only contribution is the fact that I was able to sort of erect these barriers to people understanding what I'm doing, I do kind of think it's part of my job to be able to communicate, communicate ideas, right? So either I'm serious about what I'm doing or I'm not. Let's take a look at so we're doing okay in terms of extraction. We can stick another one in. Contributed some added value with some quirky comments on Twitch. I actually really like it when people talk. Like, obviously, the side comment can sometimes turn into a long rant, and I know some people like those. Some of them just wind up being very self-indulgent and not very interesting, but I'll try and find a better way of working out which is which. Excuse me. I don't know though, like, I've always sort of felt that, so I definitely do better with audience interaction. I'm also really conscious of the fact that that's not what everyone signs up for. Like, I noticed there's actually as a whole, there's probably two types of people who will watch, maybe not small channel, like there's definitely one type of person who will watch a small channel. I don't know whether or not I can say it would be something for specific to small channels on Twitch, but I definitely tend to notice there's people who like just want to watch and they don't really see any value in engaging with the channel, which I'm actually quite fine with, because a concurrent view is a concurrent view. And obviously, you know, I always hear nice things about my voice, so if I can play up that advantage that I have, so much the better for me, right? The other tendency that I've noticed is some people really like interacting on Twitch, and one of their complaints about larger channels is that the larger broadcaster doesn't necessarily interact with their audience. Now again, there's a positive framing to that and there's a negative framing to that. I do know there's a tendency for people to say, you know, X doesn't care about their viewers, they don't interact with chat. And it could be that I'm just not privy to those conversations. You know, I'm not a member of the Cool Streamers Party, so, you know, I don't get to hear how they talk about their viewers behind the scenes. Well, I've heard a couple people talk about their viewers behind the scenes, but, you know, I generally think it's probably just the fact that there's so much volume on the, you know, in the chat window that it's just difficult to be able to give it the level of attention that they would want. But it's not necessarily taking the audience for granted. It's just the, you know, it's just the reality of broadcasting to that many people. I need to find a new place for waste. At some point, yeah, exactly. Then there's the other one. I have shut down my tier 2 for the... I'm an idiot. So, you know, with that in mind, right, it's wonderful for me as a, you know, as a smaller broadcaster, because of course I don't have as much chat activity. And so it gives me something to sort of bounce off of. And again, I tend to feel a little more comfortable having something to respond to, because in the end it's just easier, right? If somebody's talking about data and I have a data thing to say, I have an indicator that this is a topic that people will be interested in hearing about. If I don't see anything inside of chat, it might be an indicator that people are really not interested in this thing that I'm talking about, or it could be that they're actually really enjoying it and they just simply do not have something to say on the, you know, on the issue at the moment. And obviously, if you're just constantly asking people, hey, are you interested in this? That's not enjoyable for anyone, because, well, you know, presumably you're watching because you want to, you know, you just want to enjoy the broadcast. You don't want to be constantly harassed for your opinion on everything. So, you know, in that sense, it definitely makes it easier for me if people say what they're interested in. But, you know, on the other hand, like, the fact of the matter is that it is kind of the job of the broadcaster to put on a show that is interesting to people. And so, as nice as it might be to have, an opportunity to sort of riff off of what people have said inside of chat, like, anyone can do that. Obviously, it takes a certain quality to be able to turn that into, an engaging broadcast that people either feel motivated to participate in, or alternatively to just sort of fill that silence in a way that people find interesting. You're not a broadcaster, but you've been moderating some pretty large channels. Yeah, so I definitely mod a lot less than I used to. Actually, I did have a couple of interests. So I'm modding quite a bit less than I used to. And I have noticed a bit of an unfortunate tendency. So there have been a couple of channels where I was made mod, and not really because I asked for it. And it was pretty clear after a while that there was a certain expectation when I was in the channel. And that actually made me go from really enjoying hanging out in a channel to being really stressed out. And it definitely led to me like no longer watching those channels. There was one which was actually really frustrating where, there was clearly a disagreement. And the broadcaster had said, maybe we should move on from this topic. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Like, again, I'm obviously going to feel hard done by unless people agree with what I'm saying. But like, whatever, right? It's the internet. There's nothing that is said on the internet should matter so much that you consider it for more than the 5 seconds that the engagement's going on. But like, we're talking the sort of thing where I'm seeing like my name added a couple of times and there's like 6 follow-up messages after, they say to drop the issue. And, at that point, I'm just thinking to myself, I was like, this is not about the issue anymore. This is about, just a matter of respect. And I would have timed this person out, except that it's probably going to be perceived as me trying to continue the argument. And so I do that, and there's somebody in the channel who then just goes on this really sanctimonious rant about something that is completely unrelated to the issue. And the whole reason why I brought it up in the Discord privately was specifically to address the fact that, if I am a mod and I am trying to enforce the stated will of the broadcaster, it would be nice to have a little bit of backup. And, yeah, that was just a certain point where I had to ask, is like, so what's the point of giving the mod status? Because it, like, all it really seems to have done is put this target on my back for this person who, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of making trouble. And, the consequence of it just seems to have been that, I now do not enjoy hanging out on this channel. There was this other issue in that for whatever reason, I was added to a conversation at literally 4:00 in the morning. And like, this is a Discord added to a private messages. It was not in the moderator chat. It was a group chat that was created for the moderators. And the number of pings that I got on Discord woke me up in the middle of the night, and repeatedly woke me up, so that I then had to grab my laptop, open it, disable the notifications. And of course, by then, now I need to contribute to the chat and everything. So, EST. But like, and the thing, I wouldn't have been bothered by that except for the fact that another person with mod status was not added to that chat and they were in Pacific time, specifically because of the idea that they would have been asleep at that time. So it just seemed to me that it's sort of like, it's like, okay, so we've got this precedent for not bothering people who are asleep, but I haven't been included in that group for some reason. And again, at that point, it's like, I can take the time to do the rant that you all just had to hear, or I can say, this is not worth my time, a pox on all of you, and leave. Beyond the fact that this is a wonderful case study in terms of why it's actually a lot less stressful to have fewer mod swords than I used to, I have not thought about either of those channels that, that were, you know, that are the mysterious. And obviously, this is the sort of stuff that I say privately, because there's absolutely no point in spreading gossip. Because again, like obviously, it's a wide world with lots of views on different things, and I'm sure everybody has their reasons for doing what they did, and you know, so on and so forth. But clearly, like beyond being a very interesting, you know, case study in modding and what I think are reasonable expectations of the people who are volunteering on your channel, it is neither worth considering, nor is it something I feel a particular need to put a lot of thought into. So why? This is why. Because I didn't designate this as waste. Speaking of middle of the night, it's 10 a.m. You'll be off for the night. Good lord. Wait a minute, 10... Yeah, okay, I was going to say, like, 10 a.m. Like, 10 p.m. Yes. I hope you have a good evening. I'm actually probably going to be wrapping up fairly soon myself. I just wanted to get a little more progress in the game, and I wanted to get a little less ranting done than I currently am. So I messed up a couple of things here. Number one, I didn't set this as a waste receptacle. So that'll get fixed now. One of the things about that waste receptacle was it was enabling the construction of the fuel turbine and the smokestack. So I'm actually currently in an energy deficit. Now, it's something that I think will resolve itself over time. I'm also a little lucky in the sense that I've got a bit of a surplus as far as some minerals are concerned. So let's build some fancy batteries. There is a slightly better way that I can do this. So that kind of maximizes my energy coverage. Of course, my usual problem is I don't have enough fuel stored, but... And against my better judgment, I am going to build a small fuel tank here. Obviously, I have some other floors. Actually, you know what? I can make a garbage floor here, I guess. Hang on. It's actually better that I don't. It's better that I have a roadway to the processing hut so that I can get the smokestack done. All right. So in anticipation of that need... Yeah, so these are on their way up. I'm going to connect them. I'm just trying to think, like, how do I want to do this roadway? So I can kind of go out and around like this, and then I just have a straight line down to the processing. Yeah, you know what? It's not the most efficient, but it's probably the right way to do it. So I'll build a road, you know, kind of like this. This is partly just taking advantage of the inert filter. I mean, it's not perfect, right? It's, you know, I'm probably going to need to wind up doing something to protect the work shed. But, no. Okay, so first connect job, second connect job. This is going to basically shut down my power grid for a little while, but I can live with that. I think I can turn off this minerals patch for now. So the original plan was to build a mine. I don't know if that's really viable anymore. Well, no, I guess it'll still work. So I guess transport hub and storage facilities might be in my future next. The other concern, of course, is that, like, yes, I built the Goshawk, but man, that thing sure took its time to take out the enemy ship. So maybe I should be considering some more medium weapons. Biggest thing I need to worry about right now, though, is just the waste storage. Alright, so I don't see any reason to have that be disabled. So one of the things that the most recent updates is sort of... Oh no, really? Oh good, okay, I was like, man, why is this so low? I thought I was in a lot of trouble there about the fuel. But yeah, so one of the things that's really... And again, I don't know if this is part of the decision in terms of making it so that the fuel turbines need a citizen to work them. But basically, by making it so that you need a citizen to work a fuel turbine, it has actually made the... So I know there's some feelings in terms of whether or not you double up your buildings. It has definitely made the decision not to double up your building quite a bit more costly. Because if you think about all the different things that an individual worker can accomplish, and if you effectively double it for all of your fuel turbines, you know, that starts to add up. Whereas if you connect your fuel turbines, it means that you get the benefits of not just the fuel turbines, but the combination of them or the connection of them. But you also have an employee that's now able to, extract minerals or move trash or something like that. So, again, I don't know if there's just a perception that fuel turbines were being... I mean, I can see why you would just make them stand individually. Like, they make a big boom when they blow up. I guess not as big as a fuel silo when they're blown up, but one way or the other, like I definitely can see why someone who wouldn't have connected them would do so now. For our purposes, though, the real question is how many of these things are we going to fill with citizens? The answer right now is none, but we'll see. We're currently generating 784 a day, so we do need to wait a while before we can actually get our next building upgrade. But I'm pretty sure we can get a couple more bodies into the colony and earning us some money. Okay, so I should at some point consider building another ship, but maybe the last thing I'll do is get a lay of the land, which was the original intention for this ship anyway. Obviously, I'm gonna get pounded by some turrets, but at the very least, I can sort of get an idea of what's in the area and have an idea of what I'm up against. I thought for a second that was a rebel base. I'm like, my god, it's enormous. It's not as fast as you'd think. I guess it's only two engines. I can't recall if that moving message was in there. It's the first I've noticed it, anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to take a second here to make sure that there's no patrols coming in. We'll take a second to go to the work shed just so that we can get another... No, not the work shed. Sorry, it's the processing hut. Got another conversion in. So I do need to start thinking about what I'm going to do for the next rebel attack. I'm sure that the Goshawk will be able to defend me, but again, it's just worth remembering how long it took that particular fight to finish. So maybe I want to try and do a variation on this with a couple of medium weapons. It's definitely going to mean that I have some higher energy requirements, but I feel somewhat okay in my, my ability to handle something like that. There's definitely lots of opportunities for resource extraction. Oh wow, that's a really close rebel base. So I'm pretty sure that's, yeah. That's tracking me. That's already level 2. So the nice thing about this is that this is close enough that in theory I could actually get away with get out of there. Well, if I'm not going to get attacked by the... Well, that's tougher than I thought. Yeah, I don't really see us winning this fight. But yeah, maybe another Goshawk, or a Goshawk, but with medium lasers to deal with the ne'er-do-wells. And then let's get that transport hub. Oop. So I'm just trying to build this in a place where it's unlikely I'm going to have civilian buildings. Okay, I'll tell you what. I know this was not the most organized stream, but I am definitely, like, I've been trying not to let my current physical state, like, keep me from doing the best that I can. I am definitely feeling remarkably stiff in my neck. And again, like, I have definitely streamed through pain before, but I am at a point where I'm not necessarily sure I'm doing the best I can in terms of the broadcast. And I can definitely see how I could benefit from having a lie down and maybe just catch up on some stuff that I had been meaning to do earlier. So I think we're gonna leave it at that. I'll definitely return before the next patch. So and we'll continue on. So definitely one of the things I wanted to try and do on this run is to build an early navy. So we definitely accomplished that. I'm actually going to see if I can wean myself off of using turrets altogether, because I feel like that would be a really good learning opportunity for me in terms of just being able to, make the most of a navy. But yeah, I do feel that that's a task better taken on when I'm feeling a little bit more myself. But as always, Industries of Titan. I was granted a key from Brace Yourself, so my apologies for not saying that earlier. But if you are super compelled to buy the game, I still encourage you to do so. Just keep in mind that I was given this key in order to spread the good word about the game. As far as I'm going, so I know I've been missing some stuff. So there wasn't an Oblivion episode last Tuesday. That was just because I couldn't get one recorded. I'll try and have that back for next week. And I know Monday I was already going to miss it because I had, I had the holiday.
If you want to sell online,
oh God,
make sure
what
you
tab
stand
is
out.
this?
Go to Wix e-commerce.
Oh my God.
Again, because maybe things like zip don't work correctly. Maybe they do now. Last time I used.
If I never see another Wix commercial again, it will be too soon. Anyways, yeah. I'll be back with Wolfenstein on Friday. But before we all go, let me try and find a lovely person to get you in touch with. Oh man, there's some really good people here, but we've got Azure Wind streaming right now. Azure Wind is doing XCOM 2, and he is a streamer I really like. So he might be wrapping up reasonably soon, but he plays XCOM at a very high level, really talented at these games. I know he quite likes Phantom Brigade. I don't know if he's streamed it or not, but he is definitely somebody I strongly recommend checking out. So I'm going to try and not make this a long goodbye. I'm sorry I wasn't a little bit better tonight, but I will see some of you Friday. If you're here for Stellaris, that'll be Monday. If you want more Titan, probably won't be next week because the local game dev meetup will be happening, but probably the Wednesday following. Either way, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.